So why do we spin if we've had too much to drink? This is actually way more interesting than you think it is. And it's linked to this idea of buoyancy. So like why a rubber duck is floating. So to explain how alcohol disrupts the system, first you have to understand how the system works. And so this is the idea of our vestibular sense. So our vestibular sense is basically how we sense our balance as well as our movement. And it's reliant on kind of two different systems that are in your inner ear. So these systems help you sense balance, and they're also related to things like vertigo. So the first system are the utricles and saccules, and these are these little organs that are terribly named that are basically at the bottom of your semicircular canals, and they help you sense gravity. So how this works is kind of like how a snow globe works. So basically, when you shake up your snow globe, the snow will just start floating all over, and then it'll land on the very bottom. So this premise is how the utricle and saccule works. So basically, you have a snow globe, which are those two organs, and you shake your snow globe, so you move around, and gravity will tell the little tiny particles within it where to land. So if you're upright, the little particles, little snow in your snow globe of your inner ear, the particles will land on this little membrane. They'll push against that, and that'll send signals by basically like moving these little hairs. That will then cause these signals to then go into your brain saying, okay, you are upright. The little snow globe particles, the snow is landing on the bottom of the snow globe. Now, if you move upside down, it does the opposite. So now the snow will shift, and then it'll land basically at the top of the snow globe because now you're upside down and the top of the snow globe is the bottom. If you've ever experienced vertigo, this might have been what actually happened. So one of the main causes of vertigo is basically those little particles, that piece of snow, what are known as otoconia or otoliths. Those snow globe particles move out of the snow globe into an area that they're not supposed to be, and your brain is like, whoa, what's happening? This is not correct. And it gives you this sense of dizziness because it doesn't understand what is going on, doesn't understand the signals that are trying to be sent. So one of the most common forms of vertigo, benign paradoxical positional vertigo, which is a mouthful, it works by that snow falling out of place. And this is also why you get a lot of the like sickness that astronauts have in space, because gravity is no longer working on their otoliths like they're supposed to. So gravity is basically like, nope, the snow is just stuck in the middle. It is no longer falling. It's no longer pressing against it. And your brain does not understand. So basically astronauts have to like overcome that system in your brain and only start using visual cues to be able to like make it in space. Okay, now what about the spins with alcohol? This is actually working on the second system in your brain. So I told you that one of them is linked to this idea of gravity, more of kind of the balance. The other one is linked to more of those rotational forces. Now this one is less like a snow globe and more like seaweed. So picture like water moving within a lake. I grew up in the Midwest, so lakes were the best that we got. So picture like you get some waves on the lake and you get the seaweed kind of moving back and forth. So this is basically what is happening in your inner ear in those semicircular canals. So there's like these three canals, and kind of at the bottom of each of these, they have something known as a cupula. And each one of them is telling you things like which way you're rotating. So there's these fluid in the cupula, and the fluid is pressing up against like the seaweed, it's pressing up basically against those hair cells. And in doing so, it is telling you, okay, you are spinning this way, you are spinning this way. Now what alcohol does is it basically changes the buoyancy of that fluid. So it actually gets into your semicircular canals and it makes that cupula that was just kind of sitting at the bottom, it changes the buoyancy of that and makes it basically float. And when it starts to float, it starts to bend. And when it's doing that, your brain again is like, whoa, what is happening? Why is this thing bending the way it wasn't? So then it starts spinning. Now, what's interesting about this is that you basically can't stop. Like if you lay down and you have the alcohol spins, it's not helping, because the problem is not in actually what you're seeing. The problem is not at all in what your brain is doing. The problem is that the fluid has actually changed in your inner ear, and so your brain is just reacting to that. So you're going to spin for a while. And then as you start getting less drunk, as the alcohol starts leaving your system, it will change that density again. And that is probably going to create another round of spins. And there's really not much that you can do except for just like let your body spin for a while, which feels terrible, but I mean, you caused it yourself, so.